excited are you next week?
He's got to be pumped to get in this lineup.
Man, very excited. I was just talking to Coach, man. I can't wait. I hate that he gave me this week off.
Oh, yep.
That's something that they wanted for their players, and that's what I love about this football team because they care about their players. And actually, he was a player, so he understands.
What a classy move.
Was there part of you, though, saying, hey, Coach, I can go. I'm good. I can give you like 10 rushes tonight.
I did.
Oh, yeah.
But obviously, he wanted me to take the week off because it was a bye. I haven't had one. And then
Check the mic and make sure it sound right, boys.
The Detroit Lions lost their heart and soul, the engine to the defense when Aiden Hutchinson went out with that season-ending injury. And although they haven't lost a game since, it's been made clear that they had to add a piece to that defensive line. Welcome back to the channel. I am your host, Johnny Gaz. Thank you for returning for another video. The Lions did add that piece. They traded for Pro Bowl edge Za'Darius Smith. This video will give a player profile on the Lions' newest addition and tell you why Za'Darius Smith is the final touch to the Detroit Lions winning a Super Bowl. Let's go. Before we talk about Big Z, make sure to like the video if you dig the vibe here at Johnny Gaz Sports. I'd also love it if you consider becoming a subscriber. We're just over 2,200 thanks to you guys. And if you hit the notify bell, you won't miss any future videos. There is a membership option available. That's where I do all my live game play-by-play reactions, tier list, and a ton of other fun content. But there's always fun free stuff for you here. Make sure to comment down below. Tell me if you think Za'Darius Smith is that final piece. Are the Lions on a path to the Super Bowl? Let me know down below. Let's get into today's topic. As with all of our player profiles here on the channel, let's take it back. Za'Darius Smith was born September 8th, 1992. He currently stands at 6'4", 270 pounds. He originally is from Greenville, Alabama, and attended Greenville High School. He was primarily a basketball player his young life and didn't start playing football until his senior year in high school. He was actually undersized as a basketball player and credits his coaches Ben Blackman and Josh McClendon for steering him in towards the football direction. He was extremely raw talent, and again, with only the 1 year under his belt, his senior year at Greenville High School, there wasn't a lot of interest in colleges for him to play football. However, his coaches were able to convince East Mississippi Community College to take a chance on this young, raw talent. At East Mississippi Community College, he was able to prove himself. There he had 66 tackles, 11 sacks, and turned himself into a 4-star top JUCO transfer defensive end. Za'Darius ended up transferring to the University of Kentucky under head coach Mark Stoops, where he spent 2 seasons. He started all 24 games there for the Wildcats, ended up with 120 total tackles, 14 tackles for loss, and 10.5 sacks. He was a huge standout in the 2015 East-West Shrine game, as well as the Senior Bowl that year. He ended up being drafted in the 4th round, 122nd overall by the Baltimore Ravens. What's interesting about that selection is that was acquired via a trade with the Detroit Lions for Haloti Ngata. Za'Darius had to slowly work himself into the rotation there with the Baltimore Ravens and that high-powered defense. He ended up coming into his own in the 2018 season where he had 45 tackles, 8.5 sacks, 2 passes defended, and 1 forced fumble. Because of that season and the play he showed previous, he was signed on a 4-year contract worth $66 million with the Green Bay Packers in 2019. He started to have really good statistical numbers from that point forward. In 2019, he had a career-high 13.5 sacks. He had 2 sacks alone in the divisional playoff round against Seattle. That was also the first season that he was selected to a Pro Bowl. He followed that up with potentially his best season in the NFL in 2020, where he had 12.5 sacks, 4 forced fumbles, 2 fumble recoveries, again selected to a Pro Bowl, and in that season was named second team All-Pro. The following season in 2021, he only played in 1 game, unfortunately suffered a back injury, ended up going in for surgery and missing the remainder of the season. Green Bay then had to contractually cut him to save some money. However, he was then signed to another large contract, a 3-year, $42 million deal with Minnesota in 2022. There, he played in all 16 games. He had 44 tackles, 10 sacks, 5 passes defended, and was selected to another Pro Bowl there in 22. Minnesota then traded Za'Darius to the Cleveland Browns for 2 fifth-round picks prior to the 2023 season. For Cleveland, he played in all 16 games. He had 27 tackles and 5.5 sacks. He earned himself a 2-year contract extension worth $23 million with the Browns. And the path seemed to align perfectly as the Detroit Lions were in search of something to add to their defensive line. At the same time, Za'Darius Smith seemed right for the picking there in Cleveland. So the Lions were able to pull a deal. Detroit trades the 2025 5th-round pick and a 2026 6th-round pick in exchange for Za'Darius Smith. The Lions will take on $605,000 remaining of his contract here in 2024 and will have some options into 2025. I have covered on the channel why I believe the Lions could win a Super Bowl without Aiden Hutchinson. However, it's clear that since his departure, the pressure rate, the sacks have fallen off. However, the Lions defense ranks in top 5 in many statistical categories and has been the reason why they've been able to hang in and win football games here, as recent as Week 10 against the Houston Texans. The Lions had been hit with the injury bug pretty hard defensively. The obvious injury to Hutch, but on the opposite end, they lost their other edge, Marcus Davenport. Before the season even began, they lost defensive lineman John Kaminsky. And during their Week 3 matchup against the Arizona Cardinals, they lost Sam linebacker Derek Barnes. So they were really missing several pieces that they were relying on to be a huge part of their defensive line, their linebacking crew, ultimately their pressure and sack-heavy attack. They've lost a lot of that here throughout the season because of these injuries. Now, the Lions, I think everyone knows that no matter who they brought in, it was never going to be a one-for-one replacement for a man that looked like he was going to be a potential defensive player of the year. But I think they've done a fantastic job to bring the right player in at the right time, at the right price. There was a ton of speculation and rumor out there that the Lions were going to make the play for big-time players like Max Crosby or Myles Garrett. But I think the culture, the organization, Brad Holmes, has shown that they're not willing to mortgage the future, and they wanted to find the right player at the right price. Za'Darius Smith is currently 32 years old, and he's certainly on the tail end of his career, but he has been mega productive, coming off all-pro seasons. He's been a Pro Bowler, and he's had productive seasons even in his latter years. Last year, he had 5.5 sacks. This year already, he had 5 sacks and 27 pressures. He was on pace for another double-digit sack season. So he's really everything that the Lions would want in something opposite of Aiden Hutchinson if he had been healthy. But he's going to enter this Lions lineup as their premier pass rusher, their number 1 pass rush weapon. And I think he adds to what is already a good group that has been building and building ever since this injury. Za'Darius will be able to play off of the interior linemen such as Aleem McNeil, DJ Reader, Levi Onwuzurike. Those guys have been able to wreak havoc on the interior. Now, we know we've had issues on the edge, but you have players like Josh Pascal. And I think they're really excited to pair him up now with Za'Darius Smith and see what they can get out of those two players as they make the push towards the playoffs. Za'Darius also has that prototypical size and skill set that the Lions are seeking in an edge opposite of Aiden Hutchinson, if and when he returns. He's also able to play all across that defensive line, not only on the edge, but also in the interior. He's not only a good pass rusher, but he's also decently stout in the run game. And as you could tell with the clip leading into this video, he is excited to be a Detroit Lion. He's got the right attitude and seems to understand where this culture wants to go. And what a classy move by Dan Campbell and the organization to give him the week off. He would have had his bye week in Cleveland. He was then traded away, and the Lions did not have to give him week off. In a primetime matchup, Sunday Night Football against the Houston Texans, they could have used him, but instead looked at the big picture, the long term. Giving him this week off will benefit them down the road. He certainly was grateful, and he still spent that entire game coaching his teammates, willing them to victory in what was a fantastic comeback there in Week 10. Let's get into our DeLorean and travel back to 2004. In that year, the Detroit Pistons made an acquisition at the trade deadline for a player named Rasheed Wallace. Not only a great scorer and defensive presence, but he brought in the attitude that put the Pistons over the top and ultimately brought them a championship. The Detroit Lions are looking for a similar result. Any coincidence that they could almost be twins? The Lions appeared to be in a tough spot after that Week 6 Hutch injury. Where would they go from there? Could they even make a push towards the Super Bowl without their best player? Well, they've clearly shown that with a high-powered offense, opportunistic defense, coaching culture, that anything is possible. But with the addition of Za'Darius Smith, I think they may have taken themselves to the next level. The right player at the right time in the right place. I think the Lions have the right mix, and I think they are heading towards a Super Bowl. That's going to do it for today's video. What do you guys think of the acquisition for Za'Darius Smith? What does he give the Lions here for the rest of this regular season? Is he the final touch to a Lions Super Bowl? Let me know in the comments down below. Make sure to like the video if you dig the vibe here at Johnny Gaz Sports. I'd love it if you consider subscribing to the channel. Just over 2,200 now, thanks to you guys. And if you hit the notify bell, you won't miss future videos. There's a membership option available. That little blue join button will walk you through how you can become a part of the family. More than anything else, make sure to take care of yourself. Take care of that mental health. That's more important than anything else, and I want to make sure you come back and see me on future videos. I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your week. Go Lions.